We live under the illusion of control. We make plans, set expectations, try to mold the world to our liking. But life, indifferent and unpredictable, rarely obeys. The weather changes, people disappoint, circumstances shift. And yet we grip tighter, as if clenching our fists will stop the river from flowing. But the wise understand, you control nothing outside yourself. Not the opinions of others, not the events of tomorrow, not even the breath you just took, already gone, part of the past. The more you try to control what lies beyond your reach, the more you suffer. The more you resist reality, the more reality resists you. But here's the paradox. To master everything, you must relinquish control, not in apathy, but in clarity, not in surrender, but in focus. The true mastery lies in directing your will inward, where your power resides. Your thoughts, your choices, your judgments, these are yours. These are your empire. Everything else is just weather passing through. You cannot command the sea, but you can steer your ship. You cannot control the wind, but you can set your sail. And when storms rise, as they always do, mastery is found not in cursing the sky, but in navigating with calm, unshaken by what cannot be tamed. If someone insults you, let them. Their words are wind, only your reaction gives them weight. If you lose what you cherish, mourn it, but understand, it was never yours, only borrowed from the world. You are a steward, not an owner. Detach from outcomes, anchor in values, live by virtue, not by victory. Ask not, will things go my way? Ask instead, will I remain true no matter which way they go? This is how you win without fighting, how you hold everything without grasping, how you walk through chaos untouched. Control nothing, master everything. That is the way of inner freedom. That is the path not of passivity but of power. We often begin our days with plans, expectations, and a mental script of how life should unfold. We imagine people will treat us fairly, the weather will cooperate, and success will follow effort. But time and again, reality interrupts this illusion. Traffic causes delays, people behave unpredictably, sickness arises uninvited, and fortunes shift without warning. The Stoics remind us with clarity and urgency that these things, almost everything we encounter in daily life, are not within our control. Our status, reputation, health, and even the behavior of those closest to us lie beyond the reach of our will. This recognition is not pessimism. It is clarity. It is the foundation of wisdom and peace. The modern world reinforces the idea that control equals power. We're encouraged to manage everything, our image, our future, our environment, as if mastery of life comes from tightening our grip. But this is the great mistake. What we call control is often a fragile illusion, broken easily by circumstance. The Stoic, by contrast, does not seek to dominate the external world, but to understand its nature and respond accordingly. They know that trying to control what is uncontrollable only leads to anxiety, anger, and exhaustion. When a person spends energy trying to force life to bend to their expectations, they become the victim of every twist in fate. Nature operates according to its own laws, not according to our preferences. People will say what they wish, believe what they want, act in ways that serve their own interests. Storms will come when they will. Fortune will rise and fall like the tide. The more a person resists this truth, the more life feels like a battlefield. But when one accepts that the external world is not theirs to command, a great burden lifts. There is no need to rage at the world for being the world. There is only the need to align oneself with it, not in passivity, but in purpose. The Stoic practice begins with distinguishing what is up to us and what is not. This clear line becomes the compass for wise living. My thoughts, my choices, my values, these belong to me. They are the domain in which I can exercise will and cultivate strength. Everything else is indifferent, not because it lacks meaning, but because it lies outside the sphere of my influence. If someone criticizes me unfairly, I cannot control their words, but I can choose whether to let them injure me. If I face hardship, I cannot remove it with mere desire, but I can choose how I meet it, with resentment or with courage. This perspective grants resilience. When things go wrong, the Stoic does not say, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What can I do with this?" It's a shift from complaint to responsibility. It's the refusal to waste effort on rearranging the external world while neglecting the inner one. This discipline builds strength because it turns attention inward where action is possible. It also builds peace because it frees us from the exhausting burden of trying to fix what cannot be fixed. To accept that external events are not in your control is not weakness, it is liberation. It is a choice to invest effort only where it matters, and to stop bleeding energy into the chaos of what is not yours to direct. This clarity allows a person to move through life not as a victim of events, but as a master of their response to them. The world may move as it will, but the mind can remain steady. In this distinction lies the heart of Stoic wisdom. Within every human being lies a domain untouched by circumstance. It is the space where perception, judgment, and choice are born. While the world outside may shift like sand, this inner world is the foundation of true stability. The Stoics recognized that although we do not control what happens to us, we do control how we interpret it, how we respond, and what values we uphold in the face of it. This is where real power resides, not in changing the world, but in mastering the self. The modern mind is often pulled in countless directions, manipulated by emotion, distracted by opinion, and enslaved by desire. This lack of control within breeds the illusion that control must be sought externally. But the truth is the opposite. The more disciplined one becomes internally, the less they are at the mercy of external chaos. A person who governs their own mind is not tossed by insult, disappointment, or fear. They carry their power within them, unmoved by shifting fortunes. Thoughts are the architects of experience. If you allow every impulse to take root, if you grant every emotion the authority to direct your behavior, then you are ruled by forces no wiser than the wind. But if you choose which thoughts to entertain, if you pause and reflect before reacting, then you begin to reclaim the sovereignty that is your birthright. The mind, trained and strengthened, becomes an ally rather than an enemy. It no longer amplifies pain or fabricates misery. Instead, it becomes the calm eye of the storm, guiding you with clarity through confusion. In mastering your inner world, you discover that most suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by the story you tell yourself about them. A loss becomes unbearable only when seen as unjust. A delay becomes rage-worthy only when seen as a personal offense. But these interpretations are choices, not facts. You can choose to see events as indifferent as challenges, as opportunities to practice patience, courage, or humility. That choice is always yours, and it defines the quality of your life. Judgment, then, is the root of all experience. Two people may live through the same moment, yet one finds peace while the other collapses under the weight of it. The difference lies not in the moment, but in the lens through which it is viewed. If you train your mind to seek truth, to act with virtue, and to accept what is, then you begin to live with strength and harmony. If you allow your mind to drift, to attach to illusions, to chase desires, then no external success can compensate for the chaos within. Mastery of the inner world is not achieved by force, but by attention. It requires noticing the moment your thoughts drift toward fear or envy and calling them back. It requires watching your reactions with honesty, questioning your assumptions, and reminding yourself that the only thing within your command is your own mind. Every situation becomes a training ground. Every hardship becomes a mirror. Every insult becomes a test of your composure. This is not an easy path, but it is a liberating one. It places responsibility where it belongs, not on the world to please you, but on you to understand yourself. It grants power to those who would otherwise feel powerless because it shows that freedom is not granted by external conditions, but created from within. When your thoughts are disciplined, when your values are clear, and when your choices reflect reason rather than impulse, then you begin to taste the true flavor of mastery. Attachment to outcomes is one of the primary sources of human suffering. People become entangled in expectations of success, of recognition, of love, of smooth paths and predictable results. They believe that happiness lies in achieving a particular result, and so they pin their peace on things they cannot ultimately control. When those outcomes fail to materialize, frustration, bitterness, and despair follow. The Stoic mind, however, sees the trap in this thinking. It understands that while we can choose our actions, we cannot command the results. Effort is ours, outcome is not. To live by outcomes is to live as a servant of luck. You may work with diligence and care, and yet circumstances beyond your control can still disrupt your plans. The wise do not stake their serenity on such a fragile foundation. Instead, they place their attention entirely on the process, the quality of the decision, the alignment with virtue, the sincerity of the effort. This is the only realm in which freedom is possible, All else is given or taken by the unfolding of the world, which answers to no one's demands. When you are attached to outcomes, every obstacle becomes a threat, every delay a punishment, every failure a wound. Your mood rises and falls on the approval of others, the success of a plan, or the unpredictability of external events. You become like a leaf in the wind, directionless and easily thrown. But when you detach from results, you gain a steadiness that no external force can shake. You do what must be done, and you accept whatever follows, not with resignation, but with inner dignity. This does not mean you stop setting goals or striving for excellence. It means you no longer depend on achieving them for your peace of mind. You can pursue greatness without being enslaved by it. You can face rejection, defeat, or loss without being destroyed by them. Why? Because your value was never tied to winning or losing. Your worth comes from how you live, not from what you gain. You act because it is right to act, not because you are guaranteed to be rewarded for it. This mindset transforms even failure into something noble. If you give your best and the result is not what you hoped, you have not failed. You have honored your nature. You have exercised courage, perseverance, and integrity, which are far more valuable than applause or fortune. These virtues are internal achievements untouched by the shifting winds of fate. They are the only reliable source of fulfillment in a world that offers no guarantees. Outcomes belong to the world, but your actions belong to you. This is the heart of Stoic freedom. You can face uncertainty with calm because your peace does not depend on what happens, only on how you respond. You can love deeply, work diligently, and care sincerely, while knowing that the end result is not yours to share. This is not indifference. It is liberation from dependency. It allows you to act from principle rather than pressure, to create without fear, to live without needing the universe to obey your wishes. In the silence of detachment, there is immense power. It is the power to walk away from disappointment with your head held high. It is the power to continue when no one is watching and no reward is in sight. It is the power to be content in effort itself, to find meaning not in what you get, but in who you become by doing. This is the path of the Stoic, who knows that mastery over life begins when one no longer needs life to unfold a certain way in order to be at peace. When a person lives reactively, they hand over their peace to every passing disturbance. An insult, a setback, a delay, all become reasons to lose composure, to lash out, to sink into agitation or resentment. This is how most people move through life, in a constant state of reaction to things they do not control. Their emotions are like leaves in the wind, tossed by every comment, every glance, every unpredictable turn of events. The Stoic path offers something radically different. It teaches the discipline of responding rather than reacting, the difference between impulse and choice, between being driven and being deliberate. To react is to act without reflection. It is to allow instinct, habit, or emotion to dictate behavior before the mind has examined the situation. Reacting is often immediate, automatic, and fueled by ego. A harsh word triggers anger. An inconvenience triggers frustration. A rejection triggers despair. The person who reacts is not in control. They are controlled. They are led by their emotions, not by their reason, and thus they become predictable, manipulable, and easily disturbed. To respond, by contrast, is to pause. It is to create space between the stimulus and the decision. In that space lies freedom. The freedom to examine the situation, to question the initial impression, and to choose a course of action that aligns with your values. This does not mean suppressing emotion, but observing it, understanding its source, and deciding whether it deserves your energy. To respond is to bring your full awareness to a moment and act with purpose rather than instinct. The Stoic trains the mind to meet every impression with scrutiny. Is this truly bad? Is it under my control? What virtue does this moment call for? In doing so, they weaken the power of outside forces to provoke distress. An insult is no longer a wound, but a chance to practice dignity. A setback is not a failure, but an invitation to patience. A provocation is not a trap, but a test of character. The more one practices this mental discipline, the more natural it becomes. What once caused anger now evokes indifference. What once triggered anxiety now reveals an opportunity for growth. This way of living is not passive. It is the highest form of strength. Anyone can shout in anger or retreat in fear. That requires no effort, no mastery. but to stand still within, to remain calm when others lose themselves, to speak with clarity when provoked. This demands a deep inner command. It requires that you know yourself well enough to see where your emotions arise and strong enough to choose whether they deserve to be followed. There will always be moments that challenge your composure. People will disappoint you. Events will unfold contrary to your hopes. The world does not cater to your preferences, but these are not reasons to lose your peace. If you meet it with calm, it is a victory. Choosing your response is a form of self-respect. It means you value your energy enough not to waste it on the opinions of others. It means you understand that emotion is not weakness, but unexamined emotion is. It means you live according to principles, not impulses, and that your dignity is not up for auction to every passing irritation. This is the discipline of the Stoic, to respond with intention, to act with clarity, and to remain unmoved by anything that does not deserve the power to disturb the mind. Adversity is often seen as an enemy, a force to be avoided or eliminated. Most people spend their lives trying to minimize discomfort, to shield themselves from difficulty, to design a life free from struggle. But in doing so, they also shield themselves from growth. The Stoic does not seek hardship for its own sake, but understands that adversity is not an interruption of life. It is life. It is through resistance that strength is built, through obstacles that wisdom is shaped, and through discomfort that character is revealed. Without adversity, there is no true progress, no genuine test of what lies within. Every challenge that confronts you is a training ground for virtue. When pain comes, it becomes a chance to develop endurance. When injustice arises, it is an opportunity to practice fairness without complaint. When loss enters your life, it is a call to detach and remember what truly belongs to you. In each trial, there is hidden within it the raw material for becoming stronger, wiser, more self-possessed. The Stoic does not ask for an easier path, but for the inner strength to walk the path with grace, no matter how rough the terrain becomes. What breaks one person can build another. The difference lies not in the weight of the adversity, but in the mindset brought to bear upon it. If hardship is seen only as punishment, it poisons the soul. But if it is seen as practice, a chance to apply reason, patience, courage, then it becomes something noble. The obstacle becomes the path, not because suffering is good, but because your response to suffering is where your power lies. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose what you make of it. The body is strengthened by resistance, muscle grows when it is pushed beyond its comfort zone. The mind, too, is trained in the same way. Easy times make people soft and entitled. Difficult times sharpen judgment, deepen humility, and foster resilience. Adversity strips away illusions. It forces you to confront what you truly value, what you are truly made of. It reveals whether your beliefs are theoretical or lived. In difficulty, your philosophy is tested. And it is only in being tested that its truth is confirmed. The Stoic sees each hardship as an assignment given by nature. If the hardship is fear, then the task is to develop courage. If the hardship is delay, then the lesson is patience. If the hardship is failure, then the call is to develop detachment and perseverance. This way of seeing the world transforms it. Nothing is wasted. No pain is meaningless. Every setback becomes an invitation to refine the self, to cut away what is weak, and to fortify what is essential. In the middle of hardship, it is tempting to ask why it is happening. The mind seeks someone to blame, some injustice to curse, but the wise ask different questions. What is this moment asking of me? What virtue does it demand? What can I practice here that I could never have practiced in comfort? These questions shift the focus from external events to internal growth. They awaken the realization that adversity is not a punishment, but a passage, a gateway through which the self can be tested, refined, and strengthened. The goal is not to become numb or indifferent to hardship, but to develop the ability to face it without losing balance. To walk through difficulty without complaint, without bitterness, and without losing sight of what is truly important. This does not mean pretending pain does not exist, but refusing to let it define your soul. It means treating suffering not as an identity, but as a teacher. The more you practice this mindset, the more difficulty becomes familiar, not welcomed, but no longer feared. And in that space beyond fear, something powerful begins to grow, a quiet, steady resilience that cannot be shaken by circumstance, because it has been built through the very fire that others spend their lives avoiding. Freedom, in its highest form, is not found in changing the world to fit our desires, but in changing our relationship to the world. The desire to control every outcome, to bend reality to match expectation, to demand that life obey our preferences, is the root of much human misery. The more a person insists that things must go a certain way, the more fragile their peace becomes. Each unexpected event becomes an affront, each disappointment a personal injustice. But when a person truly accepts what is, without resistance or resentment, a deep and unshakable freedom emerges. This acceptance is not weakness. It is power drawn from clarity. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It means recognizing what belongs to you and what does not. It means acknowledging the limits of your control without abandoning your duty. You still act, still strive, still uphold your values, but you do so with the understanding that the results are not yours to command. This mindset frees the soul from constant conflict with reality. Instead of fighting what is, you work in harmony with it, adjusting your approach while remaining grounded in what you can truly control. Your reason, your character, your response. The person who practices acceptance does not collapse under the weight of disappointment. When things do not go according to plan, they do not rage or despair. They adjust, recalibrate, and move forward. This adaptability is strength. Not the strength of brute force, but the strength of flexibility, the strength of resilience. Just as a tree that bends with the wind survives the storm, a person who accepts what they cannot change remains unbroken by the hardships of life. Much suffering arises from the refusal to accept what has already happened. A loss has occurred, but the mind clings to the idea that it shouldn't have. An insult has been spoken, but the ego refuses to let it go. A plan has failed, but the heart continues to resist the outcome. This resistance does nothing to alter the past. It only deepens the pain. Acceptance allows the wound to close. It allows the mind to move forward, to adapt, to find peace in the present rather than getting trapped in the injustice of what was or the fear of what might be. When you learn to accept what is, you also free yourself from the tyranny of hope and fear. Hope can become a chain when it is tethered to an outcome, and fear a prison when it is rooted in losing what was never guaranteed. The person who accepts reality as it unfolds walks in a kind of quiet confidence. They hope for good, prepare for challenge, and remain undisturbed either way. Their peace is not conditional. It does not rise or fall with the news of the day or the opinion of others. It is steady because it is built on the foundation of truth. The truth that we do not own the world, we only navigate it. This kind of acceptance takes discipline. It is not natural to the untrained mind, which has been conditioned to crave comfort, to fear change, to cling to control. But through reflection, practice, and a commitment to inner clarity, acceptance becomes a daily habit. The moment something unexpected happens, the mind pauses, observes, and reminds itself. This too is part of the path. This moment, however unwelcome, is here. The only question is how I will meet it. In accepting what we cannot change, we do not lose ourselves. We find the part of ourselves that no longer depends on external conditions to remain whole. We uncover the stillness that is not disturbed by noise, the clarity that is not clouded by events, the dignity that is not diminished by failure. Acceptance reveals a kind of internal mastery that does not need the world to be different in order to be at peace. So when the world turns against you, when plans collapse and people betray, when the storm arrives without warning, stand firm. Let go of the illusion that you must control everything and claim the truth that you already possess the power to master yourself. In every loss, respond with dignity. In every challenge, answer with courage. In every moment, return to your center. The path is not in bending life to your will, but in aligning your will with life. Control nothing, master everything, and you will find a freedom that no external force can ever take away.